Good afternoon, chaps and chappettes. How you all doing? It's time for me to do another kind of little one-off video. I said I'd be doing this from time to time. I intend to hold to that sort of vague promise. I did a little while ago a video of Men of War Assault Squad, which was a World War II strategy game that I had been playing at the time. You guys seem to enjoy it, actually, so I thought, just for the sake of variety, I'll bring you another one-off video of a game that I've been playing quite a bit recently. And that game is this, Wargame Airland Battle. It's another RTS. I do like my RTSs, even though I don't put them on the channel very often, and even though I'm not terrifically good at them, it has to be said. Wargame Airland Battle is, to sum it up as succinctly as possible, is a real-time strategy game based on large-scale combined arms warfare during the Cold War. Yeah, let's put it that way. It's a little bit like if you've ever seen Ruse, which I put in one of my mailbox videos once, running in the background. It's very much like that. I believe it's in fact maybe made by the same guys who did make Ruse. However, I like this game a lot more than Ruse. It's a lot more in-depth. It has a certain amount of realism to it, which I quite like, because I kind of like anything that of this kind of genre that has something to do with realism, whether it's flight sims or strategy games, or whatever. And it's also quite fun though, and I've been playing it quite a bit recently. It is a game that is probably mostly sort of begins to really shine when you get into the multiplayer for it. However, the multiplayer community for this game is not massive, and sometimes it can be a bit of a pain to get into a game. So instead of waiting around trying to get into a game and then worry about trying to play the game properly while explaining to you how it all works and that sort of thing, I'm just going to do a bot match, a little skirmish against an AI opponent. And the AI opponents in this game are, they're not to be sniffed at, I guess. I mean, with a bit of practice, you can defeat them fairly handily, but still, they provide a meaningful challenge. The game also comes with a set of single-player campaigns, which are actually quite good as well. But yeah, this is Wargame Airland Battle. As I said, it's an RTS. It's all about combined arms warfare. You control a whole bunch of units over a very large battlefield. Everything from helicopters to aircraft to artillery to tanks to infantry. Anti-aircraft guns, surface-to-air missiles, and everything in between. It's good stuff. It's really good fun. They're actually bringing out a expansion for this soon called Red Dragon, which is going to add more armies and more units to the game, as well as naval units, so small destroyers and battleships and that sort of thing to the game as well as amphibious units. It's going to be really cool. Looking forward to it. But I thought I'd give you a little video of this, see what you guys think of it. Of course, as per usual with these one-off videos, if you like it and you want to see more, let me know. And then more will come, because I don't mind making videos about games that I enjoy playing. And since I've been playing this a lot anyway, it seems only fair enough that I record a bit of it for you guys. So, when you play this game, it's not like so much like one of your traditional RTSs where you have a bunch of factions like in StarCraft, where you get your Protoss, your Terrans, and you just, you're not restricted to a certain faction in this game. There are factions, there are nations you can play as, but you can mix and match them quite a bit. Basically, it comes down to you either play as NATO or the Warsaw Pact. NATO, of course, encompasses the United States, the UK, France, West Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, all Scandinavia, basically. And the Pact is Czechoslovakia, Poland, East Germany, and of course the Soviet Union. In the Red Dragon expansion, I believe they're going to add China, North Korea, Japan, and Australia as well, I think. But anyway, and it works on this sort of deck-based system. This is the kind of point I'm going to start up, basically, to explain the way this game works. When you're going into a skirmish or online play, you have to pick a deck you're going to use to play. And decks, basically, they're armies. They're set groups of soldiers. You don't build bases in this game which then churn out units. You basically have a set number of units you take into a battle with you, and you deploy them as you see fit, and once you've run out of them, that's it. And each army is called a deck, because it's based on a kind of card type system. You get unit cards which can be used a certain number of times, and so on and so forth. So you get a bunch of like basic default decks. You can see here Soviet battle group, East German battle group, British battle group. So far, and this game is huge in the sense that there are hundreds and hundreds of units to play around with, and lots of metagame experimenting you can do, which is always really cool. So far, I've put quite a few hours into this game, and I've only really been able to get my head around 2 decks so far, which is my Soviet deck and my British one. So that's kind of... I have 2 basic decks for Pact and NATO, so when I go into a multiplayer match, if there's only one slot available for either Pact or NATO, I can just pick one of these 2 decks and roll with it. As I go on, what I tend to do is actually, I get quite a lot of enjoyment in this game out of just sort of going through the different nations, making decks out of their units and testing them out in skirmishes and stuff. It's actually quite fun, quite interesting. It's a nice mental exercise. Testing out the units, see what they can do, refining the deck to make it more efficient in battles and so on and so forth. So, for example, I have this BBD, which stands for Basic British Deck. If we go to edit, you can see this is what it's composed of. It's all these unit cards here, as you can see. They have on them the cost it requires to deploy them, what they are. And this game uses, as you can see, infantry, tanks, artillery, reconnaissance stuff, helicopters, planes, all sorts of stuff from the Cold War period. Specifically, I believe it's from kind of the late Vietnam War period all the way to sort of the end of the Cold War. You will see units. If I go to, there's actually a button here, the Armory section, which basically is a bit of the game which allows you to view every single unit in the game, view its stats and all that sort of thing, and see what it looks like and that sort of thing here. So these are all the playable nations, as you can see. United States, Britain, France, West Germany, Canada, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, East Germany, Soviet Union, Poland and Czechoslovakia. They all have their own different units and stuff like that, but the thing is you can mix and match them, because the restriction is you only have to pick units from NATO or Pact when you're making a deck. So if I was going to make, say, a NATO deck, I could, in theory, if I wanted to, just pick units from all of these nations, mix and match them, and make some sort of ultimate hybrid deck of doom composed of all of them. Which is totally up to you. So far, I've got quite a lot of enjoyment actually out of making decks composed of units from maybe just one country, or theme decks, like maybe I wanted to make one which was just British and American units, or one which was just French and German ones, or like a Commonwealth one which was just British and Canadian ones, for example. So something like that, basically, that's what I'm saying. But it's got all sorts of units in here, all ones that existed historically and still exist to this day, in fact, in many cases. All sorts of stuff in here. Just the range is huge. It ranges from everything from, say, let's have a look. Everything. If I find a really low end unit. Everything from like East German T-34s, like this, all the way to, let's say, I'm gonna go for a really late high-end unit. The F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter for the Americans. Like the sheer range of units you've got available is massive, and it all has like a date next to it, like the 1983, for example. So these are all the American planes, for example. You've got everything from like A-10 Thunderbolts to A-6A Intruders, which were used during the Vietnam War. I think they've got Phantoms here as well, plenty of them. They've got British-made Harriers that the US Marines used for a while. Aardvarks, Fighting Falcons, just bloody hell, it's everything here. Hornets. There we go, yeah, Phantoms. Love Phantoms, I think they're such a cool aircraft. I used to have a toy one when I was very little. I'm quite attached to it. But anyway, as you can see there, year 1967. It's a Marine unit as well. Because you can build, obviously, decks of different themes. Like, you have a Marine deck or an Airborne deck, or stuff like that, using like paratroopers and things like that. And it's great. There's loads and loads of units in the whole thing. loads to choose from. That's one of the things I like about this game, is that your armies can be so customizable. You can put just anything you bloody well want in there. So anyway, I figured I'd show you guys just so you get a taste of what the actual game is sort of like to play. Now I've explained kind of what it's about and how it vaguely works. There's a lot of depth to this game, more than I could cover in a single video, you know. So I'm just trying to give you a sort of basic first impressions here for you guys at least. I've played quite a bit of this myself. So we don't want a campaign. We'll do a skirmish. We'll do a basic 1v1 map battle for the fjords. Usually quite a good one for this sort of thing. I think I'll use my Brits just because I'm the most familiar with them. They're not the best deck I have, probably. My Soviet one's a bit more versatile, but still. I went obviously with the British first just because I am British and I was more familiar with most of the different types of military hardware they had available and that sort of thing, which made playing and learning how to play the game a little bit easier for me. And we'll make the other team completely random and we'll give them medium difficulty. Seems fair enough. Start with 2,000 points each. Victory point will be 3,000 points each. 30 minutes. So to ensure this doesn't drag on too long. There are different game modes. I'm going to go with Destruction since it's the most commonly played one. And we'll launch. And I could just really kind of explain to you properly now what the game is all about. Right, okay, so here we are. This is the battlefield. It's quite a small one, this. It's just a 1v1 map, really. Our deployment zone is this blue square-ish shaped thing over here. That's where the Pact forces are going to be. I don't know what they are yet. They could be Russians, they could be East Germans, they could be Poles, Czechoslovakians, I really don't know. I did set it to random. Don't know what to expect. They could be mostly helicopter-based. They could rely heavily on tanks. Don't really know at this point. We'll have to find out. So anyway, as you can see, the map here is divided up into these zones: Foxtrot, Hotel, Delta, Echo, Bravo, Charlie, all that kind of thing. And the objective is not actually to control the most of these. The objective is actually to destroy enough enemy units to reach the number of points required to win, in which, in this case, 3,000 points. And I'll basically explain to you how that works. I'll show you here. Let's get some tanks. Let's get some Challenger 1 Mark IIs, which I have not used yet. They're pretty badass tanks, these. You know, as tanks go in this game, the Challenger Mark IIs are really, really good. They're having absolutely insane armor. In real life, they're pretty amazing tanks. In this game, they are also pretty darn good. Not immune, of course. The main battle tank in real life is nothing like the tank in World War II, for example. These things are very vulnerable to a great number of different things, but in straight-up infantry versus vehicle battles, these things generally do quite well. Their armor is so thick that they can actually shrug off plenty of missiles and that sort of thing. Cluster bombs, that kind of stuff. They're very, 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 very tough units. You can, 3 of these guys in the right place can hold up an entire army. They're brilliant. So let's move them over here, I guess. Yeah. And as you can see, I've got. This is basically my menu, which allows me to switch and select which units I want to deploy. And you can see that they cost a certain amount of units. So this artillery here, this M110RA, cost 55 points, you can see there, to deploy one of those. And that cost me 55 points, but the point is, if the enemy destroys that artillery, they actually gain 55 points. A unit's cost is also equal to the amount of points that an enemy gets for destroying it. So basically, it boils down to the general strategy in the game. It boils down to killing as many of the enemies as possible for as few losses of your own as possible. Because sure, maybe you can kill loads of enemies and get 4,000 points, but if they manage to destroy 4,000 points of your own stuff, that's an incredibly inefficient way to fight. And you'll probably lose doing it that way, so you have to be very careful with your own units. Now, having said that, I will probably get most of my guys killed, and it'll be a general epic fail of a battle, but, you know, I'm commenting and trying to play the game at the same time, something no Let's Player is ever that good at. But yeah, that's the basic gist of how it works, at least in this game. There are other game modes, but this is, like I said, the one that most people actually play, because it's the most fun, at least in my opinion. So, as you can see, we've got these zones, And as I said, controlling these zones is not actually the objective here. The objective is to destroy stuff. However, that said, the more zones you control, the more points you get in to spend on new units. And the way you control zones is with these guys here. For example, this FV-105 Sultan, who I'm going to move over into the woods here, so he's concealed from the prying eyes of the enemy. This guy is a command vehicle. You can tell he's a command vehicle because he has this little star logo next to his name. If I go to logistics here, like you can see, I have FV-105 Sultans, which are my choice. They're my command vehicle of choice with this deck that I'm using. And basically, to control an area, you simply have to drive a command vehicle into one of these areas and then make it hold position and just stay there. And that's how you control the area. However, if an enemy moves another command vehicle into that same area, it will turn white again instead of blue, like this area is here, for example. And it will be contested. But anyway, well, that's kind of advanced tactics, really. So yeah, oh, and this over here is our FOB, our forward operating base. This is where we get supplies from and stuff like that. Unlike in many RTS games, the units in this game, they all have fuel and they all have ammunition. These Challenger 1 Mark IIs can only fire a certain number of, tank shells and only drive a certain distance before they eventually run out of petrol, or whatever the hell it is you fuel tanks with, and run out of ammunition. And in order to keep them going, you then have to send supply trucks or a supply helicopter, like for example this Chinook HC-1, with supplies to resupply the units, give them more ammunition, more fuel, so they can keep fighting. So there's a logistical aspect to this game which I really like, which you generally don't find in a lot of RTSs. Like you don't find it in your Company of Heroes or your StarCrafts and that sort of thing, which is really cool. I like that. Adds a whole new dimension to the game. So you also, I will just deploy some units, and I'll kind of explain this as we go on. So first things first, I put some tanks down. They're a good sort of mainstay unit, I think, really. They're good at the main thing that tanks are good at is destroying infantry that's in the open and enemy vehicles. That's what they excel at. So, but they need to be supported. So first of all, I'm going to get a Gazelle AH-1. This is a tiny little, you can't see it very well because it's all highlighted in white because it's not deployed yet, but it's a tiny little crappy recon helicopter, basically. It doesn't have any armament of its own, I don't believe. But it has exceptionally good optics, which is the distance it can actually uncover enemy units hidden in the old fog of war. And it's small and it's relatively stealthy, for a helicopter, and it's very mobile as well. So I can move this around. This Gazelle AH-1 here is going to be my eyes and ears on the battlefield, trying to figure out where enemy units are, because that's half the battle, really, knowing where the enemy units are, because then that way you can counter them. Now, so we've got our recon unit, we've got our tanks, and we're going to need some infantry, because there's lots of buildings and woods on this map, and infantry excel in buildings and woods. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use some of these SAS guys here, who are pretty honest. To be fair, they're probably my best infantry I've got at the minute. I'm going to get 4 units of them, and they come in these Lynx AH-1 helicopters they use as a transport. So these guys are going to get in there, well, they'll start off in their helicopters. Helicopters are going to take off, and my plan is to secure some of these buildings around here, probably these to start with, and then we'll move on a bit further once we've got all the infantry deployed. They're going to zoom in, grab a foothold in some of these buildings as fast as possible, and then hold their position until reinforcements arrive. That's what they're going to do, and that's what they're good at, the SAS units. So they're exceptionally badass infantry, and they're also recon units as well, which means they have a really good line of sight as well. They're kind of like the Gazelle here. They can see a long distance, which gives me extra vision over the enemy positions while they're hanging around there. I'm also going to deploy some green jackets, which are kind of recon specialists. I'm going to pop them down here. Those guys are going to start off in their Lynx helicopter. They're going to fly over probably here-ish, maybe into these woods here. Get deployed in there, going to get out the helicopter, go hide in the woods with their binoculars, and keep an eye on this side of the battlefield as well. And let's see, what else can we do? Well, we've got our SAS ready to go. We've got other infantry at our disposal as well. We've got these guys, ATGMs. That stands for Anti-Tank Guided Missile. These guys have Milan missile launchers that are designed for dealing with enemy tanks and vehicles. We've got LAAD Javelin guys. They deploy a Pinsgauer, which is a sort of basically kind of Jeep. These guys deploying a Spartan armored vehicle. The Javelin is a guided missile that is for shooting down helicopters mainly, but also aircraft it can shoot down at very short distances. I've also got Royal Marines, which are basically elite infantry, again, kind of like the SAS, just not quite as good. They deploy in helicopters. I've got some Fusiliers who deploy in FV-510 Warrior infantry fighting vehicles, which are actually really good. They're not skilled, they're kind of a basic infantry unit for the British. I've also got paratroopers, which are like, they're like Royal Marines, except they come equipped with Sterling submachine guns, so they're better for close quarters combat, essentially. But they both come with Carl Gustav launchers, you can see here, which are 84mm rockets for using against enemy tanks and vehicles, which are, and the Carl Gustav launcher is very good. Like, there are all sorts of different types of weapons in this game, as you can see. I went to hover over all of these guys. For example, the basic Fusiliers, they actually just get the M72 66mm rocket launcher, which isn't as good as the Carl Gustav. Because the Carl Gustav, you can actually guide it if you stay still, whereas this thing, I believe, it's just you fire and forget it. But anyway, so those are my infantry. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to forget about the paratroopers and the Royal Marines. In fact, you know what? Actually, I will get some Royal Marines in helicopters and have them fly over and secure maybe this area here on the flank. And the rest I'm going to deploy in a group of 4 Fusiliers in Warrior transports at the back there. Also going to get, let's see, for now at least one other Sultan Command vehicle, which is going to go secure this sector over here and get me some more points. Aircraft. Now, aircraft, you don't deploy them as normal units like these guys. You actually click on one of them, and then it appears in a box down at the bottom left here, and then you can call them in to do airstrikes and things from there. You don't actually deploy them on the map on a little runway or anything like that. I don't have any helicopters in this deck, other than these transport ones, because in my opinion, my admittedly noobish, inexperienced opinion, the British helicopters aren't very good, so I don't bother with them. I just focused on spending points on other stuff. But as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of different aircraft, ranging from the very basic and cheap Harrier GR1 with its 500kg bombs, to the Tornado GR1 IDS with its very fancy cluster bombs and anti-air missiles and stuff like that. We've got a Jaguar GR1A, which has some nice MCLOS missiles for taking out tanks and armoured targets with. Good stuff, and a Sea Harrier for taking down enemy aircraft and helicopters. Anyway, I also have these FV-102 Strikers, which are sort of small armoured vehicles which fire anti-tank missiles. So they're actually a cheap alternative to actually getting ordinary tanks if you're dealing with lots and lots of heavily armoured opponents. But anyway, I think what I'm going to spend the rest of my money on is something that's very important in this game, and that is anti-air. You desperately, seriously, big time need anti-air units in this game, otherwise your guys are going to get toasted on the ground. I'm going to have 3 trapped Rapier FSAs, which are basically surface-to-air missiles. They're SAMs. They fire missiles which can take down enemy aircraft and helicopters. And 3 of these Falcon FV-434 Falcons, which are 30mm autocannon anti-A. Basically AAA, like you'd find in War Thunder or something, actually. And they are good for taking down short-range targets like enemy helicopters and things like that. And yeah, you really want to get these guys supporting your vehicles and ground units, because otherwise your guys are going to get toasted on the ground by enemy aircraft if they decide they've got air superiority. So that's really important. Is there anything else I could grab while I'm here? For now, I think I might be alright. Famous last words and all. Oh, no, I'll get some artillery, because artillery is pretty useful and important as well. So I'll get some arty. I might be able to deploy, actually, a ridiculous amount of it. Let's see. The British have really quite nice artillery, in my opinion. They get some really big, massive artillery guns, which are very, very accurate and do a lot of damage. They're good for taking out units with as opposed to smaller artillery pieces which are good for just suppressing units. These guys can actually kill stuff at long range as opposed to just make them get into cover. So I like to deploy a lot of them for making precision strikes on enemy targets, especially when I can't get a plane there, for example, because they might have some anti-air missiles deployed in the area. And as you can see, I'm also deploying these actually right next to the FOB here, because artillery chew through ammunition like crazy. These things don't have a lot of ammunition on them by default, and I would rather not have to... I could deploy them in the woods, see, for concealment, but I'd rather not have to ferry across supplies with a truck or something all the time. It's more micromanaging than I'd like to have to deal with. So yeah, that's the plan. We are going to get our helicopters over to the town, drop our infantry off, get them in these buildings so they can lock down the area. Get our Challenger Mark 1, no, sorry, Challenger 1 Mark 2s up here to create a sort of base of fire where they can take down approaching enemy APCs and tanks with. And we'll have our Fusiliers and the Warriors and the anti-air move up to support them at the same time, at least in theory. And then we'll have our recon units deploy as well and get this Sultan over here to lock down this extra zone here. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. And I'll start the battle. I'll get all my waffling out of the way and you can see the way the game actually unfolds. Let's do this. Select all these helicopters. Let's get them moving over here now. Go, go, go. Get the Gazelle over here as well. We'll move the Challenger Mark 2s up here into this field. We'll get the anti-air, hide them in that little tiny bit of woods there. We'll get the Warriors to move up here as well. The Sultan can move up over here and sit in these woods. This Lynx can move over here to these woods, I think, and unload when you get there. Unload, unload, unload. I want to unload these guys before any of the enemy planes or helicopters get here. The Russians are particularly annoying because a lot of their helicopters come quite heavily armed, even the transport ones, so they're really good at actually taking out enemy helicopters that might be coming into transport units of their own. Let's see, let's move these Challengers over here. Let's get the Lynxes out of the way, don't need them to get destroyed, they're pretty much useless now anyway. Let's move these Green Jackets into the woods, move these Lynxes out of the way, and yeah, the battle has already started. We've got units incoming. Our Challengers are going to work. Our Warriors need to move up now. The Warriors are pretty good, as you can see here. There's these armoured fighting vehicles. They come with autocannons on them and they transport troops as well. They're particularly nice. I like them because they're actually capable of shooting down enemy helicopters. With a bit of difficulty, it has to be said, and then we just took out an enemy plane that came foolishly in here. But they're capable armoured vehicles. They can take out enemy light armoured vehicles and all sorts of stuff like that. Oh yeah, we're taking out loads of enemy aircraft right now. They're sending in Yaks now to try and drop incendiary bombs, which... Ooh, they just did on our Challengers. Our Challengers should hopefully be okay, though. It was just incendiary bombs, and they've got good armour, so... Okay, we've got the Royal Marines over on the flank there, we've got the SAS here in the town. Incendiary bombs are really nasty against infantry hiding in buildings. Really, really nasty. That's probably why he brought them over there, to try and flush these SAS out. Let's try and move these Fusiliers actually up into the middle of this suburb here. Try and gain some ground early on. I will also, I think, bring in some more Royal Marines and Lynxes and some more Fusiliers, since we've got the points to spare at the minute. Green Jackets are laying down some recon over here. I might move a command vehicle into there at some point as well to capture that. And let's get these artillery hotkeyed and get them doing some work. For example, let's take those guys out since they're staying nice and still for us. What are these, by the way? I think they're anti-air units. Very basic, cheap Russian anti-air. The Russians actually, oh wow, look at that. Blam! More points for me. And that's an anti-air unit over there, a slightly more competent one. Oh no, that's even worse. That's just a truck with a minigun on the back. Oh dear. Right, let's move the Warriors back a bit. We don't want to leave them too exposed. Fusiliers are taking the town quite easily there. Let's move these SAS up a bit. Getting a bit more ground. Oh, they're firing their own artillery by the looks of things. I really need to try and pinpoint where it's coming from so I can do some counter battery fire and take it out. And let's see what we've got coming up here. We've got some... Ooh, some tank destroyers. And lots of armoured fighting vehicles, you know, infantry stuff. Let's see, they don't seem to have a lot of anti-air now we've destroyed that. They have this, but it's bloody terrible. So I'm going to call in some planes. And a couple of Harriers. Show you how this sort of works. Get the Harriers to bomb those guys. Bomb those tank destroyers. The Harriers should... Yeah, here we go. You can see them zooming onto the battlefield right now. These are very basic cheap air units, these Harriers. They just drop bombs, and then they bug out and they leave. You can see here. Oh, excellent. Very well placed. Good stuff. Right, so where are my warriors? Let's get them up there and get them killing some of these VDVs, which are elite Soviet infantry. They're the next step down from Spetsnaz, I believe. How are our challengers doing? I should probably move them up a bit so they can fire at some more targets. But I don't want to leave them too exposed, because I don't want them exposed to flanking fire, because that would be really bad. Can we get some artillery fire over here at these infantry and stuff? That's pretty good. These Harriers should be ready to go again soon. This one was damaged slightly, so he's going to be a while, but this one should be ready to go immediately. Again. Let's drop some bombs on these guys. Oh, and the artillery is going to work as well. We're holding on quite well here, although my SAS is out of anti-tank ammo, which is not so good. The cool thing about SAS is they actually come with blowpipe anti-air missiles as well, so they're infantry that can actually take on vehicles and helicopters if needs be. And we just lost a Harrier to some Iglas over here, which I really need to get rid of, but we'll deal with them in a bit. Let's move these challengers up here a little bit further. Give them a few more targets to shoot at. As you can see, line of sight is really important in this game. Like these guys can't hit the... Well, they couldn't hit those guys over there because there were houses in the way. It's actually quite important. Oh, hello! Hello, free anti-air kills. There we go. I'm gonna... Did they... No, our anti-air is still in the game, thank God. I'm gonna move it up a bit, though. It's a bit out of range right now. And let's move these warriors in here as well. And move these warriors up here, too. So you can see the warriors are not... They're not exactly tanks, but they can still take on enemy infantry and... You know, very lightly armoured transports like these guys without too much trouble. Well, they are taking missile fire from what exactly? Oh, these Conquerors, which are... Yeah, they're just jeeps with anti-tank missiles on the back of them, basically. Let's see if we can get an artillery strike on those guys. Although I think they're moving now, so never mind. Oops. We're holding our ground pretty well, though. Let's get another Harrier. See if we can drop it on those Concords there. Yeah, warriors are doing okay. Let's move these guys up here, actually. Oops. Yeah, you know what? Just unload before any more of you die. Let's move the Fusiliers into that town over there. Let's move the warriors out of the way now. I don't want to lose any more to missile fire if I can help it. Looks like the Harrier dropped the bombs okay. We lost a Challenger, apparently. Wonder what to. See, this is a bit of a nightmare for tanks. The Challenger's main advantages are, one, its frontal armour, and two, its long range. And its long range is somewhat compromised by the close quarters setting of this urban environment here, and it means that there are lots of avenues of fire that the Russians can come in and try and take them unawares and hit their sidearm, which is probably how the other Challenger died. Let's get some bombs on these ASUs. And I think it's probably about time we got some stalwart trucks up here to resupply our infantry, because they're running low on anti-tank and anti-air missiles at this point. Although our Fusiliers are moving in to take this section of the suburbs. And we took out the ASUs. Good stuff. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Let's move the Royal Marines up into this housing block here. They're not doing much good sight all the way down there, really. Apparently the... Ooh, we've only got one Rapier left. I think he got hit by an airstrike or artillery. Needs repairs. All the more reason to get some logistics units up here. Let's get a Chinook up here. A supply Chinook. I'd really love to know where the enemy artillery is. I'll have to keep an eye out when it next fires and see if we can pinpoint the source of the rounds, so we can do some counter battery fire and take them out that way. Right, and I think I might also deploy a Sultan as well, and then try to move up and actually try and secure this area here and get some more points on the go. Should be a good idea. Anyway, we don't really know. It's a bit of a stalemate now. The AI seems to have sort of slightly given up. Okay, in attacking, which is probably wise. Although if you push me hard enough right now, you'd probably be able to dislodge me, especially if you used some napalm, which I know that Spetsnaz do have. Let's move the Gazelle up, see what we can see. We got some... what are these? The BMPs or some kind of transport. Let's see if we can get the Harriers to take them out. Oh, Challengers are taking fire from some anti-tank missiles over there. If we turn to face them, we should be okay. Oh, we're getting hit by napalm as well. Silly AI, you should be dropping that napalm on my infantry, not my tanks. Royal Marines are doing a good job there. Let's move them a bit further over to the right there, actually. So they've got a field of fire on these incoming units here. There we go. In fact, let's get some artillery fire on these guys. They're all bunched up like that. They're kind of asking for it, frankly. There we go. Get the Challengers firing on them as well. There's that artillery coming. There we go. This is a very small map, so the artillery can actually react and respond quite quickly, which is good. When you can play on maps that are much bigger than this. The artillery, the range of these big artillery guns here is so much that it could probably touch any corner of this map, but you get maps that are so big that you actually need to move the artillery around. Oh, and we lost another Challenger. Oh, and we lost the other Challenger, so we've got no tanks in the field right now, which is not good, because those are expensive. 145 points each, which is mighty expensive, but I might just replace them with a few cheap Chieftain Mark IIs to cover up the flank here. Should be fine. Those things are fairly disposable. Let's see if we can bring in another Harrier to bomb these guys. They've probably got anti-air in the area here somewhere, but the Harriers are so cheap I sort of don't really care. Actually, you know what? Let's move these spare warriors over in this direction. And aha! Our Lynxes with our paratroopers or our Marines in, I forget which. Ah, yeah, we lost the Harrier to... what was it exactly? I'm not sure. But anyway, point is we got the bombs off. Right, we'll move the Lynxes over there. We'll tell them to unload in that field next to these houses, and we'll move them up to support these Marines. Yeah, the Stalwart trucks got up there. They resupplied the infantry, so I'm going to move the Stalwarts back to the FOB here. I'm going to tell them to move fast as well, which will tell them to use the roads, which will make them move quicker. And, okay, artillery coming in on the warriors, not good. Where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Was that... That's the artillery. Those are the artillery. Those are mortars. High caliber mortars. Let's take them out with our own artillery. Those will be good to deal with. What we got here? Iglas. Those are vaguely competent Soviet anti-air. So the Soviets get some really amazing anti-air, actually, by the way. It's one of the defining features of their... Oh, very nice. One of the defining features of their army. The AI, luckily, does not seem to be using the best Soviet anti-air available at the minute, because if they were, I'd have some problems. But they get some amazing anti-air that's really long range. You can just take down aircraft simply by looking at them. It's kind of amazing, actually. Oh, here come our chieftains, and oh, hello! I didn't see you all the way over there. Let's get some artillery fire on them. And you know what, screw it, let's get another Harrier. Why not? I've got plenty to spare. I need to move my green jackets up somewhere a little bit more useful, I kind of think, really. Or maybe get some SAS over here. Right, you know what, chieftains, you can hold position. I don't want you to get murdered by those missiles. Right, here we go. RT and they have got anti-air supporting them. But that's okay. That trade-off was more than worth it. Do we have any anti-radar missiles? No, we don't. Right. Yeah, the British don't get those. You can get what are called anti-radar missiles, which are missiles that carry by aircraft for the specific purpose of taking out anti-air units. Because most of the anti-air units, not all of them, but most of them are use radar-guided targeting, and radar missiles will home in on the radar signals from those units, and they will fire an incredibly long-range missile, which will fly over there and take them out really easily. Anyway, we're winning by miles on points at the minute. We're at 300 points away from winning the match, so I think we'll wrap this up now. Let's see. What happened to my Chinook? Did it get destroyed? It might have done, you know. I'll get the stalwarts up there to go repair the rapiers. Right, I'll roll Marines. Let's put them over there for now. I can kind of ignore the guys on this flank. I don't think they're doing anything. They don't seem to be playing very offensively. They're not coming towards me, otherwise the green jackets would be able to see them coming. So I think, like, for now I can kind of ignore them. I'll use my chieftains to clear out some of these armoured vehicles. These are mega cheap chieftains. They're good tanks for the price, but their frontal armour is nothing like a Challenger's, so I can see this ASU killing a couple of them at least. Let's move through these buildings so we've got a clear line of sight. What's going on over here? Now they're sending more ABCs up at us, but they're just getting murdered by our infantry with the rocket launchers in the buildings here. Let's see if we can't call in some sort of massive airstrike for the lulz. What we got? Cluster bombs. Just loads of Harriers. A couple of tornadoes. Get it all on these guys here. Just pummel them to bits. Do it. Just for the lulz, because at this point I just need a few more points and we've won. It doesn't really matter how many I lose doing this. Cluster bombs, bombs, everything. There we go. Chew on that one, Ivan. Didn't actually kill as many of them as I hoped it would, but never mind. And we lost most of the aircraft doing that, but never mind. Like I said, it doesn't really matter at this point. That was a stupid move, by the way. Don't ever do that in a multiplayer game. Wow, okay, right, they're taking out some of our infantry here through sheer volume of automatic fire, apparently. Let's put some artillery fire on those VDVs. Let's move these SAS up into these buildings here. Maybe I'm gonna try and get these Royal Marines over there in a minute, I think. So let's get these chieftains over here so they can start shooting at some of these armoured vehicles, I think, as well. Try and move these Royal Marines up there. Move these ones over here. We're gonna need some more. Right, these trucks can move up there and resupply those SAS guys. Now they've repaired the Rapier, which we haven't really needed very much of, actually, because the AI seems to have given up on using aircraft at the minute, which is fine by me. Let's get these chieftains on this road here so they can take out anything that comes down this way. They're cheap units, really, the chieftains, but like a lot of units in this game, it doesn't really matter how cheap they are, as long as you know how to use them, they will actually pay dividends, like they are doing right now. Let's get some more fire on these guys. Artillery. It's a shame I don't have any napalm, frankly, but what can you do? The British are, they're one of the, they're not as bad as some nations, like Denmark, for example, but compared to, like, America or the Soviet Union, they have a bit of a stunted tech tree. There are some units that are simply just not present in their army at all. And there we go, we won. that took us about 20 minutes. Not bad. We got 3,005 kills. They got 1,300. I probably could have made that a bit more efficient if I hadn't been busy talking away. But and here you can see which units did the most damage, and this is really useful as well because it allows you to tell you. It basically tells you which of your units were the most effective over the course of the battle, and gives you it's good feedback for when you're trying to fine-tune a deck. Basically, as you can see here, for example, my Challenger 1 Mark IIs, specifically this one Challenger here, commanded by Bushby, apparently, racked up an insane number of kills. This guy killed loads and loads and loads of Soviet units. This guy destroyed a fair few as well. Like, this guy more than paid for his cost in points. Yeah, more than, you know. Him finally dying, that was totally a good trade. Some of them, on the other hand, like this Falcon here, they shot down one Su-25, and that was kind of all they did, really. But it was an anti-air unit, so he was really there more as deterrent and insurance than anything else. The SAS, again here, they destroyed a ridiculous amount of stuff, which is good news. I have an awful habit of sending my SAS in helicopters at the beginning of the game and then just getting them destroyed by a wayward anti-air unit or an enemy jet or something. And that's not good, because SAS are expensive, as you can imagine. But these guys did well. They killed lots of stuff. These SAS killed loads of stuff as well, as did these. As did the Fusiliers, you know, basic infantry unit. They still killed loads of things once they were in the right position in those buildings. SAS again. Harriers killed quite a few things. See, they were only like 50 points apiece, these things, but they killed loads of stuff. They're nice disposable aircraft, Harriers. I like them a lot. Challengers again, Fusiliers again. Yeah. M110RA, that was our artillery going to work. Royal Marines. Yeah, it was a pretty good match. We had lots of units which just, you know, the kill death ratio was insane, especially like this guy here, which is usually the sign that you had a good match. And these were our losses as well, so you can see like which types of units you deployed and what they were killed by. So for example, I lost a lot of units here to these BDR-M2 Conquerors things, so in future games perhaps that's something I need to look out for. If I see Conquerors on the map, that I need to deal with those things and move my guys out of the way, because I lost probably an unnecessary amount of units to them because I wasn't paying enough attention. So there you go. Basically, there you go. Exit. We'll go back to the main menu. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Wargame Airland Battle. It's a very, 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 very tight, very well executed real-time strategy game that I'm a big, massive fan of. I really, really like this game. I always enjoy playing it. So if you guys want to see some more of it, which you may well do, I don't know, then absolutely let me know in the comments, and then we can do some more Wargame in the future. Obviously I can stream it and all sorts of stuff like that as well, but if you want to see more videos of it on YouTube, then yeah, do by all means pester me about it in the comments. So, for now, that was this little one-off video over. I hope you guys enjoyed it, something a little bit different and out of the ordinary. And I will see you folks next time. Ta-da for now.